Hello and welcome everyone to our Tech Excellence meetup. So the vision behind the Tech Excellence community is to raise the bar of excellence across the world. The following is a short summary of our recent as well as upcoming speakers. And also to find out more about our events, please join our group on Meetup. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to show your support, and you can also follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as GitHub. So for today, I'm really excited that we are joined by Michaël Azerhad from Wilcom. So Mikhail is someone which I'm sure everyone already knows, and many people already follow his really great LinkedIn posts, both about test-driven development, domain-driven development, and so he's a both technical trainer and developer. So without further ado, I will now hand over to Mikhail. So really looking forward to this presentation.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I wanted to find a title that will learn something we can't find in multiple tutorials around the website, around the web. So the title I chose is, if you refactor after each green step, you'll fail. Okay, so it took a lot of years to realize some of the contents of this talk, and that's why I talk about the secret, TDD secret you need. So I will start. Okay, so if you have any question, I let Valentina. Thank you for her to let me have that talk. So let's go started. Quickly, I'm Michaël Azerhad, as she introduced me. I own a company named Wilcom, and I'm 35 years old. I'm a fervent practitioner of TDD since about 2011 in any of my projects, front and back end. I love the domain-driven design, clean architecture in the same period. And I'm currently I'm currently a developer, a teacher, and a coach about craftsmanship, agility, etc. And also no estimates. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. I like to have opinionated ideas and verified ideas in order to share my knowledge and learn from others too. So it's a good place to know. Okay, so if I ask any developer what is refactoring, he would tell me, okay, it's changing the internal structure of the software while keeping intact the external behavior. Okay, changing the structure while not changing the behavior. It's good. It's a good definition, but it lacks something very important. It's like a precision and not allowing new behavior. You can refactor and suddenly, without even being aware of, add a new behavior of the system. Actually, when I see during my coach, my trainings, and even my teammates, some people refactor their code. They don't just refactor. They apply what we call transformation. I want in this talk to differentiate the idea of refactoring and transformation. So this talk will be in two parts, okay? The technical aspect, why refactoring will make you fail if you are upset with it, and the business aspect, and other ideas to emphasize that idea, okay? So why with TDD? Okay, there is a good video of 3 minutes on YouTube of Uncle Bob, okay, known as Uncle Bob, but its true name is Robert C. Martin. And he says, why do we TDD? We TDD because we want to refactor the code, not because we want to capture bugs, not because we want to have a certain security. All those aspects are just the consequences of the wanted to refactor. So why to refactor? Okay, so to improve the expressiveness of the code is in comparison. Okay, like a book, like a writer on a book, he rephrased some sentence, he changed the style, everything to make a better book. And what we are we will focus about the main aspect is to reach a certain level of generalization that will reduce the accidental complication. I think everybody knows what is accidental complication. It's the fact of being hostage of the code when you want to make some evolution, even a trivial evolution. So as long as the product evolves, the people suffers, really suffers, because they lack refactoring, allowing them to evolve the software and to adapt. Okay, agility is about adapting, to adapt the software. We can talk about composition, abstraction, modularity, etc., rephrasing, naming, a lot of things. Okay, so, and you know what? Generalization is both your best friend and your worst enemy. It's really true. Why? I saw many teams that are literally stuck while doing TDD because they reach generalization too quickly. What does it mean? It means that I strictly don't like the way TDD was taught. I strictly don't like, because it is about red, green refactor. Red, the minimum of tests that allows you to fail. Green, the minimum of code you are allowed you can write to pass the failing test. And refactor as long as you want. There is no constraints on refactoring. There is constraints on the red, on the green, but not refactoring. And people will make a mistake. I love refactoring. I'm obsessed with refactoring. I love a good copy. I love quality of code. But there is a but. You have to know what is really a refactoring and what is a transformation. A transformation has the same clause of a refactoring. It looks like a refactoring, but it isn't. And we will show in an example from scratch. I like the challenge to expose concretely the problem with a transformation that is disguised for refactoring. For example, okay, so I will demo a typical failure with a non-example, and I have my own example too. So I will share both. So let's share my screen. Okay. Let's share that. Okay. Okay. So a trivial test just to know if it passes. It is in TypeScript. Why? Because it is straightforward. Okay, I like Java, Scala, or anything else, but for examples, TypeScript is very good. Enough typings and very straightforward. So I want to show you how to do it. So let's imagine, okay, the typical known examples was about Uncle Bob. Okay, for example, so I will try to find a shortcut just to show you the subtlety. So the demo is what we call a sentence analysis. Okay, why not? Okay, just for example. Okay, so the idea is that you have a phrase, okay, in the language you want. Nobody.
Sorry, Mikhail,
Yes.
just to interrupt. Are you sharing the ID? I can see the welcome button at the
sorry.
front.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, if you could just reshare again,
Yeah,
maybe.
yes, you're right. Up, window. Okay. Is it okay?
Yes, it's
Yes,
fine
okay.
now.
Okay, so don't look at that. It's just for, it will be erased in a few seconds. So let's imagine a subject. Nobody will a sentence. Nobody will find you. Okay, and never be late. Okay. The subject is the exercise is very simple. If delete all the n, delete all the n of the sentence, unless it is followed by a e. Okay? So for the example, we will keep lowercase. Okay. So for example, in this case, nobody will find you. I want as a result, our body will feed you. Okay. In this case, never be late. I keep the n because it is followed by a e. Okay. Let's try it. How a TDD master, not just a beginner, would do it. Okay. So for the first test, what is the first test? For instance, it is a purist, a TDD purist, for example. Imagine that developer, she will start like that. Okay. It's an empty sentence should be kept unpacked. For example, I just imagine the level. Okay. How to do it? Expect. Okay. So we could rephrase it. Okay. Rephrase it is a function, the main function, for example. Rephrase. Okay. And an empty string. Okay. To equal empty string. It is unchanged. So let's start. You can run test watch to be able to listen for the test. Okay. So rephrase, here, the computer doesn't know about rephrase. He's right. I didn't create it. So let's be guided. Rephrase. Up. Okay. And here. Okay. Say a given sentence. Okay. And here, string. Okay. So what is the minimum of code? Minimum of test. It is done. It is failing. Let's see. Is it failing? It is failing. Undefined is not empty. Cool. The minimum of code is return empty. Okay. Until now, the TDD is really master. Okay, no problem with that. Second, okay, the n. Why a sentence if you could make it simpler? Okay, so n, the result should be, is not followed by a e, so should be empty. Let's run the test. Okay, it is returned empty. So it is a convention that a simple letter that end up to empty, it should be empty. So nothing to do right now. Now, why not? Or never, okay? If you want never, okay? Never. Now, plutôt. Now, rather now, okay? So I want O. I just want the N. Okay? And I have an empty string. It's not O. What is the minimum of code to pass it? There's a lot of ideas. The minimum code could be if sentence point is equal point as no, it's a script. Okay. For example, okay, up right now. Okay, unless return sentence. Okay. Naively, we can run the test, but it will fail because for the same reason. So I don't expected received n but respected. Okay, so is we can do that on length inferior 1. Okay. Okay, and now you have the n. I don't want the n, so I want to erase it and do that. Up. Okay, it passes, and now people want to refactor. So they want to refactor. What will he do? He will do that. Sentence point replace There's no replace all, okay? Replace any n with empty value. This passes, okay? It looks like a refactoring. I change the structure of my code. The behavior is the same. My test still passes, but there is an issue. What is the issue? The issue is in the next test. The next test is what we call the degenerated cases. Okay, so I want never. Never is about never. Okay, I made a mistake. Just 1 second. For example, imagine we will start. Okay, now will be because indeed with now we keep the n. Okay, well it's not a huge mistake. I can remove it. Okay, I can have that test just to show. And here, okay, I have ever, I don't have never, okay? So for example, just to show, okay. So let's restart from here. Expect never, it should be never. The trivial things would be to do that, okay. And after the people would say, okay, but the reality is to replace. So we will reply that. Or anticipation. All my tests will replace the n, so let's apply it. Okay, so refactor. But you show it won't work for that test. That test will break that. And how do you refactor from that? How do you manage to add transformation, add some code? You have to get rid of that. And the issue is to get rid of that. There is an issue. What is a replace? A replace is a loop. What is a loop? It is multiple if. Okay, it is far more complex than an if, a single if. Uncle Bob will teach you. If you have to use a loop directly, it means that you miss the real cases you want to apply. There is a list of transformations. Okay, if you type on Google, you type TPP, transformation priority premise, and you will see that there is a list of transformation. First, what we did, we replace the undefined with an empty string. Okay, so the first transformation is about undefined or nullify to a constant. Then we replace the constant with a more complex constant, the no. Okay, now, okay, then we apply the loop in the section of priorities made by Uncle Bob. Loops it at the very bottom. Don't use them unless you very have to. So what should be the answer to pass the test? If we go now, let's restart 1 second and we will finish. Okay, so return sentence. Okay, so it is working. And now I did that. Okay, so it passes the test. Okay, now let's go with now. Okay, it should be now. Okay, donc it doesn't work. So let's start by the right way. Okay. Sorry, for example. Okay, return up. To the top. Okay, and now return sentence. Okay. Okay, so for the okay, égal 1. Up. Okay, it passes. Now the last test with the appropriate priority. It is about never, but ever. It doesn't work. What is I don't want to replace all because it we will be stuck. So substring, for example, okay, for example, of 1, 2 sentence length. For example, let's try it. I didn't try it before. Okay, so you have a O. Okay, so now you have faced to the previous test, but it's okay because you can add a transformation, higher transformation, that is a if. Okay, so if I want to say to tell the computer, if it is followed by a E, replace it. Okay, how do we do? So in this test, just for trivial, we don't make the whole exercise. If sentence carat 1 égale U, for example, okay, then return sentence. Okay, it's trivial, just for example, okay, and it passes. So just for reformatting, it is passing. Then we use what we use. We didn't choose a loop. A loop is too straightforward. It's like a bulldozer. Okay, all in this it is pass. I will replace. I don't want that. Okay, so there is an issue when you refactor to be able to be aware of the order of transformations. It is working. I can do better, okay, but it's not the goal of the conference. But it is working without being able to find another algorithm. Replace all. We need another algorithm. So this is the first example. There is another example. Just to finish with the example. An example from Uncle Bob, but with my my customization. Okay, it is about. I will do it quickly. It is about. Okay, prime factors generator. Okay, so for example, should extract prime factors we should generate. Yeah, of a given number. Okay, so the first test, okay, would be expect prime factors of 2 to equal a list of all prime factors 2. What is a prime factor? For 2, it is 2 because the 2 for because it is a prime number. For 4, it is 2 by 2, so 2 and 2. For 6, it is 2 and 3, etc., etc. So for 2, okay, so we have const prime factors. Okay, and prime factors, I will say, for example, up, I can run it. Here, a number. Okay, I rerun it, and it is undefined. Okay, it's a good easy. Why not? I can do that. Okay, it passes. Okay, good. The next test is about 4. Is 2 and 2, for example. Okay, and they lack 2. Okay, so how do a TDD practitioner ignoring transformation priority premise would do? It would do like this. Const prime factors. Yeah, up. Okay, and prime factors push 2, return prime factors, and he will do that. If prime factors, no, if n égale 4, okay, prime factors pushed 2, okay, it passes. Okay, it passes, it is good. The test pass, but he wants to refactor just now. What will he do? He can do that. For example, he can do that. He can do, okay, for e, let e equal 0, e inferior lesser than the n, then 2, for example, in hard coded plus plus. Okay, push 2. Okay, and here, else, in another case, I just want 2. Okay, this is, okay, but let's see, a loop, bottom of the list of transformation priority premise. This refactoring is maybe absurd, but people does it and getting stuck. So what is the problem? The problem is with, for example, 6. Okay, and you want 2 and 3. You start 2 and 3. It doesn't work because I want a 3. And now you are stuck with this 2. It's not the same 2 like that. It's a 2 because I want 2 times to get 4. Okay, so how do you progress with that code to have 6? It's very hard, very tough, because you violate transformation priority premise. And in reality, in real projects, a lot of developers, even seniors, are being stuck like this. And they have to rewrite the solution to find another solution. Let's find how we could solve that problem with keeping the law of transformation priority premise. For example, let's start. Okay, we can go like this. We can start that. Okay, for example, okay, failing test. It fails. Now I want not 4. Why not 4? Because 4 will involve an array. And an array, if you take the list of transformation priority premise, is about the 4 or the 5th, the 4th or the 5th position in the list. To bottom. To very bottom. I don't want it. I want a simpler thing. To have a simpler thing, you have to find a simple test. Okay, it's in build directional. So I want, for example, 3. 3. Why? What is simple? Because I don't have 2 numbers. I have 1 numbers. Okay. So, okay, I have 2. I don't have array. What is the minimum transformation? So to pass the first, I lost we had to have that. Okay. Now I like the 3. I have 2. I have 2 for now. I like the 3. I want a transformation. Transform a constant to a variable. Up. Just that. It passes. And the goal is to find just quick fizzing with the fingers, and up, it passes the test. Okay, it simplifies everything. For example, for the 4, we have 2 and 2. Okay, 2 and 2. I can do that if n like the beginning, then prime factors, prime push 2. Okay, I added. Okay, I added. So it doesn't work. Okay, and if I have that, I used 1, 2, so I have 2 for the next for the next step of the working to have that. You use 2. Okay, divide by 2 to the remaining of the to the remaining numbers. Okay, so nice. Okay, it passes. Okay, for example, okay, it passes the code, and I didn't choose a loop. You just if you want unconditional to conditional statement, it is up to the list, higher step to the list. So I want to use that priority before the next one. Okay, for example, we will finish it very quickly. For 6. 6 is the next simplest test I can find. It is about 2 and 3, and I have 2, 3, and 6. How can I do? How can I do that? So I want to. So I can do a transformation. That. Okay, and it fails for the first number because for the first test because it's added 1. I want 2, but it added 1. It added 1. Why 1? Because look at that. Okay, I can do that, but for the 2, it is enough. That is enough for 2. I don't want another push. So I can have if superior 1 and conditional statement higher in the list. Okay? If it's still greater than 1, then I want to push another. It passes the test. Okay, it's almost finished. Okay, now for the 8 is about 2 2 and 2. Okay, 3 2. It doesn't work. I want to find the correct transformation I can find. What is it? Just replace with a while. It passes. You know, just tangling. Up, you touch up, it passes. That is TDD. That is what I call TDD. It's not about looking for a solution for about 30 minutes, 1 hour. No, right now I want the solution. Okay, and it evolves as the test gets specific, the code gets more generic. It is a sentence from Uncle Buck 2. Okay, because as the test gets specific, as you deep into the constraints of the solutions, your code becomes generic. Okay, you have modulo 2. Before I have equal 4. You generify the solution. You have a if, while is a more generified solution for if. It's multiple if, so you generify the solution, etc. etc. Let's start. Let's try it for the 8. Okay, 2 2 and 2. Okay, it's working. Now the last 9. 9 is about 3 and 3. Okay, it fails. Good. It returns only 9. Keeping in mind, you want to generalize. You don't want to go back to hard-coded code. You want to generalize. What is hard-coded in this step? The 2, it's hard-coded. The 9 numbers is with odd numbers. I don't want even numbers. So I can do that. Let's select what the higher transformation we can use. So imagine a number, candidate for division. Okay, so it is about a lead candidate 2. I want just to replace. This is a refactoring. I replace, I don't transform. I don't implicitly add new behavior on the code. When I had n modulo 2 for n equal 4, it is a transformation. It is not a refactoring because you allow more numbers. You allow a deeper solution. It's not bad. So let's replace. Okay, just that. I want. What is enable reassign? You write for now. Const. Okay. I apply. Okay. I have 3, 3, and 9. Okay. And I want to do while n greater than 1. I want to apply all these things. Okay. And in the while, I want to candidate plus. So for example, I have a let. Okay. It passes. It passes the code. It took 2 statements to write, but it is straightforward. If you keep the transformation premises, you don't have to rewrite the whole algorithm to adopt a new behavior. And now you can refactor, really refactoring. For example, I can get rid, for example, if you have a loop here, you don't have need that. Check, TDD is good for that. Okay, you don't have need. The while, I can replace with a 4. For example, let candidate equal 2. Okay, and greater than 1, and that's 1. Okay, I want that one. Let's try it. It passes. Good. So up. Let's try it. It passes to. Okay. Same, for example, I don't have a init variable, so I can have just a dot and the condition of evolution up of the for loop. Now I can do that. Okay. It passes. I can remove the ugly bracket. I don't like brackets. I want to ugly brackets. Okay. And here's the solution. Keeping transformation priority premises. The exercise is tough. Okay, the prime numbers. There is some trick in mind to have, but when you have this sensation of keeping the transformation, every algorithm gets simpler. And I follow this law for about since 2011. Okay, 2011 in all my project, front, like back. Okay, so let's go back to the PPT. Okay, how do we do? Up, stop screen, demo failure. Okay, so what happens for the TDD practitioners that has failed? They have mixed up refactoring and transformation. Refactoring is very innocent. It's pure. It doesn't have any implicit effect, nor side effect, nothing. It's just a pure restructuring. Okay, a transformation looks like a refactoring in some of cases, but brings some new things, some new behaviors, to even implicit behaviors to the software. Caution with that. So it's about TTT, okay, TPP. You can show. So all this slide, I showed the solution. Okay, you get a new rule, a secret rule. And everyone think about clean code, but it's not the main part. The main part is in clean way. Okay, choose the right path. Okay, because you can end up with a clean code, but if you suffer, what is the goal? You don't want to suffer. You want to have a clean way, and the TPP is a clean way to allow you to evolve naturally in TDD with just tickling with fingers quickly, just change one word. Oh, it passes. Okay, nice. Okay, two statements now. The cycle of TDD is the size of the cycle is the most important thing. You have to pass the transformation in about 1 minute in average. Okay, you pass a test in 1 minute. If you take 30 minutes to pass a test, it is a poor TDD, a poor vision, a poor test, a poor developer. You don't want that. You have to practice. Okay, it's like that. We always had made the mistake. Even me, I made the mistake. No problem with that. But we have to practice. Okay. Okay, so if you miss it, you will struggle, you will under stress, and eventually fail. So there is another aspect why refactoring can be dangerous. So the first why was because it is mixed up with transformation, and people don't make the difference. It's a very important. The second one is about the business aspect. Okay. Nowadays, I've already written about that. Nowadays, there is a lot of developers that talk about that evangelize craftsmanship. They go in the company, hey, I am craftsman. You will change with me. Let's go to the paradise. Okay, and he tries, and he fails. He fails because it's a complicated thing. Okay, not everyone can do craftsmanship from scratch just from the willing. You have to read books, you have to practice, you have to be smart, you have to a lot of things. Okay, and what I noticed in several companies is that the craftsmanship is obsessed by the best copy of its code at the detriment of the business aspect. What the business wants, what your manager wants. He wants to deliver a software that brings some value to the customer. He doesn't care completely about refactoring, about TDD, about everything else. He wants a software working. Okay, under the line, he can bear. So the big mistake I find is that people strive to refactoring. And when I observe them, even senior developers, I observe them, I understood. They don't have a good practice of TDD. They had a practice that has been good even in books, but isn't good. What is it? I will talk about that. Just one second. The main idea of TDD is about differing refactoring. It's not about the refactoring. It's about the ability to defer refactoring. As the clean architecture allows you to defer choices of technology, in TDD, you can defer the moment of large refactoring. Okay, it's not about transformation. It's a technical, very micro level aspect. Now it's a macro level. Okay, why to defer? We want to defer to maximize the productivity. Okay, if you take, I made the mistake, so I know if you take, you learn a pattern, a builder pattern, okay, from Joshua Bloch 10 years ago, and you want to apply it in every domain model you see. Maybe one day we will need it. Oh, it's cool, a Fluent API. I want to use it. Everyone, have you ever tried to create a builder pattern? It's very verbose in Java, for example, in some language. It's very useless for many cases, and you want to apply final everywhere, to apply your famous design patterns everywhere you can, etc., etc. I love refactoring. You should do it, but not now. You have to produce some features with the main idea in the mind to get feedbacks first. Get feedbacks of the feature. Now, after, you can refactor deeply. You can refactor, and as soon as it is refactorable, open to refactoring, you stop, you deliver. But to do that, you have to change your mind about TDD. And now I talk to all the Mockist developers. I was Mockist for 4 years. Okay, a real Mockist. Okay, I want to mock everything. Okay, even my door, I want to mock it. I want to mock everything. But what is the issue? What is the issue? The issue is you get the design rigid. I like to talk about egoist design. Why egoist? People don't want to egoist. Hey, craftsmanship, humility, why you forget? No, it is egoist by nature. If you lock in the test that the object A will call B with those parameters and then B will call C, then you rigidify the design. The test knows perfectly the path you've chosen, A, B, C. Now, a better developer comes into the room and want to know A, B, C, A, C, or A, D. I want to apply A, D. You can't. Why? Because my test says A, B, C. Sorry. It's unprofessional at all. I was Mockist. I like Mockist, and I lived that failure. I wanted to evolve. For example, for those who practice domain-driven design, DDD, domain-driven design, okay? You want, some people mock domain services. You don't want to mock domain services. Domain services is like an entity. You don't mock it. It is pure. You don't mock it. Why don't mock it? Because you want to let the ability to refactor. When I start my project, I don't have any domain services. Even if it is obvious that I will need one, not now, just cheap. I can refactor after. Why? Because I'm using for about 2012, okay, in all my projects, the use case driven design. There is Valentina that enjoys to talk about that to LinkedIn. It's I'm completely in line with that. According to me, it is a sole practice I've tested a lot that lets you the ability to refactor without pain. The goal of TDD, the TDD is good. I rephrase it. If your tests are not brittle, if you can change the design, structural design, if you can extract class, extract method, extract what you want, rename what you want, inject what you want, with the minimum impact on the tests, then the good way is to have behavioral tests. But I don't like that word anymore. When people talk about the behavior, they comprehend So behavior is about knowing that A call B with those parameters. No, I don't talk about that behavior that is typically for mockists. I don't talk about that. I want to talk about denouement, about the ending of the story. I want to what is the side effect of the end of my test? What happened? I test what happened. I don't test how does it happen. When you apply that, you can refactor. You can have a deferred refactoring. You can refactor later. You can let another developer refactor tomorrow or in 2 days or 1 month or 10 months your code. The goal is to refactor minimum, just to let the ability to each other to continue the progression, and we will talk about continuous improvements. Okay, TDD is about that. It's not about showing the best copy suddenly in one shot. No, it's about the progression. You try, you change. It's in like agility. It's an iterative practice, iterative activity. Every day, you get rid of some things, dirty things. You rename something, you rearrange, etc., etc., without transforming, just refactoring, and then you can have a very good implementation, a very good product. Either it is a front end or either it is a back end. A front end, the same rule, exactly the same rules. I trained about that to how to differ about React, Angular, etc. from the business cases in a clean architecture way, for example. So if you have any question, I will be happy to answer.
So thanks a lot, Mikhail. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure everyone else did, and there were quite a number of comments. So we will be getting to Q&A in about
Yes.
10 minutes. Now, up to now, I just want to also, maybe if we could reflect on some kind of summary of what we learned about now. The part which I found really great, how you explained it, was knowing the difference between like refactoring versus transformation, as in, okay, making code better in terms of expressiveness, so readability, differentiating that from generalization. And those are the things that often get mixed up, because the one for maintainability, as you explained, that one is fine to do in shorter intervals, but just the one of abstraction we don't want to do prematurely. And I think the other also takeaway from this was use case driven development approach, whereby what you're describing and what you've written on numerous LinkedIn articles is you're writing tests which are targeting the use cases. So at the beginning, you don't even have any rich domain entities. You might even have 0 domain services. But you have tests, you have code which works, and then later you can actually let the domain emerge. I think that's probably something that's new for many people, since many people are still, how shall I say, probably from the class-based approach, are still coupling tests to the domain. And I want to ask, okay, a general question which comes up is, what's the benefit in coupling tests to use cases versus coupling tests directly to domain entities? And people might say, you know, what if it's really complex behavior? So what would be your response to that?
Okay, first I want to clarify, there is a mistake even in my PPT. It's not about use case driven. All is not use case. Use cases. It's about module, API. Not API, REST API or GraphQL API. I don't talk about that. It's about an API. Because it can arrive a lot then. Inside your use case, you can put another unit test inside it, because you view the bottom of it as a module, independent module. Okay, so for example, if you have some you want to calculate your fees, okay, annual fees, okay, with your content, etc., etc. So your use case is about calculating the year benefit, okay. You need to calculate the taxes, company taxes, okay, to subtract it to the final outcome. If you think about only use cases, all your tests will be positioned on use case and on the calculate the year benefit of my company. But do you even see, have you ever seen how taxes is calculated? It is a combinatory explosion of rules, of percentage, of very complex. I don't want to drive this with my use case. Why? My rule is simple. It is known for the business to calculate taxes. Yes, so it isn't implementation details, the module itself.
Yes.
It is a module used by my use case, but it is a module I can test. So I can have tests on my use case, good, but I can stub it. I can stub the taxes to let the taxes be tested independently. But the taxes can use a lot of classes that are considered as implementation details, because it is a choice of developers to have the class A, B, C. It's not the business. First, the taxes, calculate the taxes was the business rule of of the calculation. So I can emerge a unit test from it, because it is I wouldn't refactor the entry-point. The entry-point of taxes will keep during all the life of the software. So then, what is the difference? The difference is it's okay. If you start with a use case driven, you get one thing for free. You have a context. You know why what you are testing. It is a documentation. For example, I see some developers, they want, imagine you want to calculate you want to know the students that can pass to the next level, to the next year, okay, and those who have to redo the year. You want inside it to have an average of the notes, of the scores of on the year. I see people to get the average method and test it independently of everything else, but you lose any context. Why do you test? Why do you make an average? It is a function, I want to test it, but you lose the benefit of the context. Why? Why it is dangerous? You don't know why you do that, because you don't have a context. Comparatively, in the use case driven, I want to know if Bruno, for example, can pass this year with excellent notes. Okay, so the calculation of average is the details of the test. I don't want a label in the test. Okay, it's an implementation details. I need to calculate the average, but it's not an implementation details. So you have a context. Why are you doing that? To know if it passes. Okay, so the next year. Okay, I understand. Now, tomorrow, you have a good JavaScript lib that calculates the average for you. You can change it. You can apply it without breaking any test, because you don't have any test to this particular method. Let's imagine now domain entities. Domain entities, you can have, for example, you can book an Uber. Everyone knows Uber. You can book an Uber, and you have a trip, a domain entity trip. At first, it didn't exist. Okay, so at first you have only your use case, and then in refactoring step, not transformation, you make a trip, extract class a trip. Do you write a test on it? Of course not, because it is in implementation details. It is not a things I want to test, or a complicated things like taxes, calculation, etc. It's not. So I want that. And now I want to decide that in trip, I want to calculate the price from trip. So trip, I have departure on arrival. I want from departure on arrival to calculate the price. I can have a method called price in trip. Tomorrow, I don't want that. I want to calculate the price from the strategy pattern about the direction, and the direction will tell me the price. It's not trip anymore. I want to refactor the refactoring. If you test it directly with, my test knows that in trip there is a method pricing. It is completely breaking. I don't want that. I want to test. I want to let the implementation details to get better every day. And when you let the ability of refactoring a very moving part, the domain entities everywhere, every day. And in my project, every day I change. Oh, it's an abstract class. It's not the abstract class. Okay, let's take that method and put it on the abstract class. Let's test the abstract class. No, I don't want that. The abstract class, the UML diagram is implementation details. When you have that, you have lesser tests. Huge benefit. At the end of the software, you can have 100 tests. Okay, 500 tests. Okay, compared to 5,000 of tests, of useless tests, of contextual tests, of ugly tests, of everything you want. Okay, so you have tests that act as documentation because there is a context in it, and lesser tests to maintain because there is less tests, and with the ability to refactor. And the main part of TDD is to refactor with that every time you change one thing, you want to refactor. The issue with that is that the people don't want to test anymore because they have to maintain a test, or they cut the test, or they erase the test. We don't. It's very difficult. So clearly, you should try it. I call it outside in from the port. There is mockist like Sandro or everything else that test from Steve Freeman, Nat Price too, from the controller. Okay, from the concrete implementation of the controller with technologies, and they call it outside in because you go to bottom as long as you mock. You create one thing. You don't have the bottom? Okay, mock it. Okay, now up, create the bottom. Okay, you need another bottom? Okay, mock it. Next, you go back like this. Okay, you go down like this. It's outside in. I like outside in, but from the port. I don't want controller in it. Only business rule. If you act like this, and you up to the adapters, singular adapters, and the singular adapters, you stub or fake or mock. I don't like mock or mock. And in the adapter, you can have another clean architecture with another rule, with another set of unit tests, with another set of integration tests. We have an integration test to test the collaboration with the technologies. So this style is very good, and test the difference. You can test. You can do a project with Mocky style. I did it. Huh? You will suffer one day. You can try. You can try. I can be wrong, but you can try. You can suffer one day. So yeah. So it's less brittle and very productive.
Yeah, so we can basically summarize that when we're writing these tests, which are targeting use cases, they are more contextual. They are in fact tests of requirements rather than implementation details, and all of those. And we can basically freely extract classes. We can move around methods without breaking out tests. Whereas if the tests are bound to individual classes and methods, well, then it's going to be a really frustrating experience. It makes refactoring really not just expensive, but also unsafe.
Yes.
And it makes actually many teams give up on TDD. In fact, I think that's one of the primary reasons. The other interesting thing which I found in your description, especially regarding taxes, is differentiating. Okay, we have tests targeting the use cases. Now, in cases where we just extract some entity like the trip, we didn't do any additional test for the trip. But in cases when we're dealing with something which might maybe have complex calculations, like the calculation of taxes, which in itself becomes a module, then from our use case test, we can stub it out, and because we're treating that as a separate
and
module.
you can erase them afterwards. if you want.
Yes.
Because they need to be guided to let the algorithm emerge. When it is emerged, you can consider it as an implementation details if you want, and you can erase it. And it is the main principle of TDD. TDD is not there to test. It is there to guide. If it is guided and you want now to let the use case drive it, because the mini test you used helps you, it's finished to help you, okay, delete it. Let's use case. I do that a lot.
So that's the part about switching gears, which also Ian
Exactly.
Cooper
Ian Cooper,
mentioned,
yes.
whereby he does those lower level implementation tests,
Exactly.
but then deletes it. So similar thing could then be. Now I'm interested in your example about taxes. When you do make those additional tests for the tax module, would those tests stay or do you delete them? How do you handle that?
Can you repeat the end of the sentence?
Yes. So when we had the example, we have a certain use case, and during that use case, we need to calculate the taxes.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, the tax calculation would be in a separate module. What would you do regarding those tests that you made for stubbing the module and the module separately? Would those ones remain?
If I erase them, I don't use stub on the use case, although part it is not tested anymore. So I let the code exercise the real object taxes on the series of object taxes. If I want to keep the test, I can stub.
Excellent.
Yes.
That was, I think, one of the most common questions that came up regarding use cases. Now, okay, before we go on to the other questions from the audience, maybe a few minutes, short overview. I'm just interested, how did you get started with TDD, and also regarding your training programs for developers, maybe to share a bit about your approach, also how you train developers as well.
Yes. So, like Obelix, no, I'm joking. I started TDD in 2011. At the time, I was in investment bank in French, and I didn't write one test in my life. I had about 24. Okay, 24. I have 35. 24. I don't use unit test. It is not taught in France, and I think everywhere. So, so one day I tried. I started to one teammate that had 37 at the time, that was passionate about clean code. It's not clearly my teammate, but a neighbor, okay, at the time, took a book, and hit me in the head, read that. Okay, it was a growing object-oriented software guided by tests of T. Freeman at Night Price. Okay, but monkey style, a lot extreme, but I loved that book, and until now, the first term I chose to search on Google was TDD. TDD. I want to absorb everything. I didn't have a mentor. Okay, I learned by myself. Okay, with also the good videos of Uncle Bob. It was the time in 2012 when every week a new video came out, and about clean coding, naming, functions, SRP, solid, etc. And there was a series of about TDD, TPP, a lot of things, and I learned TPP with that video in 2012. And then I chose to leave my job completely and to start an application in startup mode. I had my own startup, and I had the business view of my startup, as I was young. I wanted I especially wanted to apply everything I know. I learned on the book, implementing domain-driven design, secure RS, TDD, Angular at the epoch, Angular 1 in 2012, 2010, 2012, it was Ionic, Mobile, Scala. I learned Scala with a book. My view of learning is I read the book first and then I write the first line. I don't want to start to check one syntax or other if I didn't finish the book. It's special. Maybe it's wrong, but I want to absorb all the theory before
Mhm.
started. I'm like that. I don't want to miss one thing or to do things not in a conventional way, or I don't want that. I want to be sure of what I do. And so I started TDD and with a monkey style and for some years, and then I had a clear view, and it's not the way. Why, when I had to make a domain service, it was like that? I had domain service, I don't want to test domain service. It's like another entity, I don't want to test that. But if I don't want to test that, my unit test then will traverse more than one class. Oh, I don't want. And then I came across, then, not first, then, about Jan Cooper. And I saw Jan Cooper. I watched Jan Cooper with popcorn like that. And I said, I'm dreaming of. He's confirmed what I saw, what I suffered all these years. And then I was shared on Facebook, not LinkedIn at the era, on Facebook, this link everywhere. Okay, a grandmother takes this TDD everywhere. Okay, and then I loved that way of thinking, and each of my project was like that, and that's how I discovered things by failure, by rewriting a lot of projects, and until to find the right path that is come to me. There is a longer of right path. You can have a good TD mockist. Okay, I'm sure they suffer more than me, but it is good developer too. Okay, you can develop, but I was happy at the day, and I never make exception in TDD. If tomorrow there is about 1 billion a year of salary without TDD, I don't accept. I don't accept. 2 billion accept.
That's excellent.
Okay.
Um,
So,
you actually have, standards and the principles. So even how you described your whole journey, you learned it by yourself without a mentor. So that takes, it's definitely a challenge, and
I
how you
had a
mentioned
mentor,
it.
but it was a neighbor. Okay, the neighbor showed me tricks about clean coding, but the two were at the beginning of uncoupled explosion, of clean coding, of solid.
Mhm.
No, nobody is not about solid.
Yeah.
I learned design pattern first. The 23 design patterns. I love design patterns. I learned all about CQS, not CQS, about Demeter, about a lot of things. But I was the only one in the team. So I
Mhm.
decided to leave because they didn't accept it. It's a very, very issue in the world. Yeah. They didn't accept
It's
it.
everywhere. I had
Yes.
experienced a similar issue as well, working in teams initially without any test automation,
Yes.
let alone test-driven development, and also having to learn by myself essentially, so I can fully relate to your story. And later, how you explained, you firstly started the mockist approach, and later you saw the challenges, and learned, you identified with Ian Cooper's video, which you are well promoting on LinkedIn. So I think a lot more people are now becoming, I
Mm.
guess, familiar with it. And as we mentioned before, you also have, trainings for developers, and maybe
Yes.
just a short overview of
Yeah, short
what's
overview.
your approach, how you train developers.
Okay, so I started to train developers after they saw my screen and shared, what the fuck is it? Okay, why do you code like that? Why did you didn't use Angular? See, yes, I use Angular, not the way you use it. Okay, I decouple the things. So I started by the what the fuck, and then I decided to train them freely, and to show them some coding tricks, some theories about some things, some books to read, etc., etc. And I opened a Slack, a French Slack. Now we are about 2,300 members, active members. So it's a very, very, very good community. I thank them a lot for what they bring. And I started to share a lot of things in podcasts, in about videos, in about pairing in life, in real life. And I decided in 2019 to make a business of it, to train deeply, very deeply, some developers to TDD, to clean architecture, and clean coding in general. There's also a DDD, but this year I will propose a new offer about DDD, domain-driven design. Have to think about saga, aggregates, domain events, eventual consistency, how to choose the right size for aggregates, all the tips I experienced, I want to share. So until now, about 800 people in real life I trained, seniors, very seniors, like juniors, like every style. So I have to adapt. It is group of about 6 up to 11 people maximum.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to adapt to the level. If the level is high, people know a lot of TDD, I up the level a lot more, and I want to show them a new trick to get better at TDD or clean architecture. So I choose my way of doing is I chose a subject, or I let them choose a subject. Like I did from scratch, to show them it's not just learning and repeating in front of them. It's about challenging, a challenge to show that the practice have a very good value. To be the best thing is to be tested myself. So they submit a subject, not a subject like we did. It's a kata. I don't want kata. I want real life project. So real life project with real business rules, with database, with multi-threading, with a lot of things. I want those kind. And we, in 10 hours or 12 hours, will mob programming. But the main part is I show the things, and I let some interactive exercises across the path to not be boring, and in that way I can show a lot of things. The problem with TDD nowadays is there is a good trainers, but they are just about the trivial examples, and people don't want trivial examples anymore because projects are not trivial. When you want an investment bank in a training world and you learn about prime factors, it doesn't save anything. Okay, what do I test? What do I choose? And after experiences, I can now detect what is the main problem with TDD for people, what is the main problem with clean architecture for people. For TDD, for one sentence, for example, they don't know that you should think before about the direction you take. Okay, they think you just turn off the GPS device and it's good. No, you have to know the path, the destination. If you don't know the destination, how do you know what to test, what to make in your asset? Oh, it's the function will return. No, it's not a function. Perhaps it's not a function. Perhaps it's a domain event you have to capture. Perhaps is a database. You have to check the repository. Perhaps it's a AricJS, a stream. The real life is not kata. And I want to show that in trainings. Until now, I made training in French, and I want this year to start to train in English. Other people, so people that doesn't speak English, it's French. In French, I am more fluent than in English. So in French, I am speed, but in English, if I train a lot, I think I can be very proficient, and I think people will appreciate. Some people will appreciate.
Definitely. So looking forward, I think I really like the approach that you described, not just katas, but the free life. And
Thank you.
later, like spreading, trainings across the world. So now I will proceed to just go through some of the comments in chat. So this is the Slack community that was mentioned, but let's go on to the questions. So what books do you have in the background, or maybe what books do you recommend for
Okay.
reading?
Okay. I recommend that book. Okay. First, you can't TDD if you don't read that. Okay. It's orthogonal. Yes. It's about domain-driven design, but read that book. Forget the blue book about Eric Evans. It's good, but you have all in it. The big package.
Mhm.
Okay. All in it. I read that book in 2013, and it changes a lot of ways of thinking about my code. If you want, you can start. And for TDD, I started with growing object-oriented guided by test, but I don't like Mockist anymore. So even if the book is very interesting, and I recommend to turn the page and read some parts, I won't recommend it anymore. I recommend that one. Modern C++ Programming with Stage Development. I discovered it last year because I had to train a team in the atomic field, nuclear field, in C++. Okay, about craftsmanship TDD. So I read that book, and that book was the most close to my mind in terms of TDD than any other book. So if you want to practice, start with those two books. Then yes, there are others, but this one is better than clean code, is better than everyone else. Okay, start with it. If you don't read it, if you do examples are in Java, but you can apply it to every language. And if you enjoy like me functional programming, there is another from the Debasish Ghosh about how to do domain-driven design in a functional way. Okay, so with algebraic data types, free monads, etc. It's very interesting.
Wow, great recommendations. Here, in terms of word regarding accidental complication, accidental complexity, I assume it was the same
Yes,
meaning.
it is the same. It is a debate like this. In some videos, I heard about accidental complication. Okay, it's about the video about maybe I can find it. One second. It's very difficult to find.
Or
Yes.
perhaps you
Okay.
can also
Okay.
send it.
I will show the link. Maybe it's not on
Yes.
YouTube anymore. Okay. So it is the same thing. Okay. But I like the complication more because complication is the same complication. Complexity is about maybe it's because it's complex. To go up the Mount Everest in France, it's complex. It's a big mountain. It's complex. But so it's an apologize for every developer. It's complex. It's complex. No, it's a complication. You create that complication. It is more complex than enough. So I like that one.
Yes. And also in terms of words, so when you were referring to transformation, is it referring to transformation priority premises?
A synonym, a replacement? Is that the question?
Yes. When you were referring to word transformations, like talking about refactoring versus transformation, are you referring to Uncle Bob's transformation
Yes,
priority?
completely. Yes, there is a blog. Okay, you tap Uncle Bob TPP on Google, first link. Okay, it's a green background and very clean. And there is the video on cleancoders.com, cleancoders.com about the website of Uncle Bob, and you will see a lot of good contents about clean code in general. And
Great. We also had one comment regarding the early TDD example. So this was where you were illustrating the case when someone made write a premature generalization, like didn't have adequate, but simply generalized too early. Also, a question regarding zero cases for the primary factors.
our
Would
prime
you
factor,
also
yes. You can continue. Okay. With prime factors, there is 0 or 1 is a very edge case because it's not a prime number. So I don't want to treat them until there is a bug because it is not in the domain of the definition of the problem. The definition of the domain it is not like that. A prime number starts with 2, not 1.
So it's like a negative case. In other words, you were starting with the smallest positive case.
Yes. For example, if I have
Mhm.
a client, for example, a front end that will exercise that code, I won't let to pass 0 or 1 by design, by UX design. It's not so. I will in my form I will refuse 0 or 1. So I don't want to
Yes.
treat that in backend. Okay, it's a pragmatic
Mhm.
way. Yes.
Yes. Also, we had one comment. Maybe you can say something about it more. So when doing TPP, you also need to find the next appropriate test case that will force you to use
Yes.
a simpler transformation. So maybe say something a bit about
Yes.
that.
Yes. Okay. Green is not about green is about finding the minimum of code that pass a test, but the test has a responsibility. The responsibility to let the green be simple. Okay, so you have to choose. It's the main difficult part of TDD. You have to choose in the red part the test that will let you choose the highest priority you can to evolve in the program. So I won't choose, for example, a test that will involve an array and a map and a loop and everything. I want to, if it is a constant, I will choose it. If it is just a conditional statement, I will choose it. If it is one statement not conditional, I will choose it. So I won't choose a loop. I won't choose a recursion. I won't choose. You choose the test according to the complexity will involve in the green field, according to the transformation priority. It's a bidirectional. You choose the test, and green, you apply the simplest transformation you can. And the test will allow you to find the simplest transformation you can. A simple
That's
transformation.
a good guiding principle.
Yes.
Now we also had one interesting. Now this question caused some debate in the chat. Well, sorry, the previous comment was this one, that in an ideal TDD world, all code is derived by
Yes.
test cases, so we don't have just code
I
appearing
won't lead
here.
all code. All code is it's wrong. It's not all code. There is humble object. You don't add them. There is UI. When I talk, for example, for front-end development in test, even in my formation, people imagine that I will use React testing library. They will imagine that I will assert on the DOM. No, there are business rules also. And I consider the components, not any components. Complex components, I have TDD mindset like this. But them components that just dispatch an action Redux and just replace the response from a selector Redux selector, I don't test it at all. So it's wrong to see for any people that all code should be driven by test. No, just code that matters. And code that matters, it's code that have the idea of iteration, the idea of algorithm, orchestration. If it is declarative in one way and choose, maybe it's an humble object. You have to choose. Yes.
Interesting. And we had a follow-up question about is there any way to do
Classic question.
TDD by making test lead you?
Classical question, but the definition of TDD is to let the test guide you. If not, it's not
Yes.
TDD. It's not TDD.
Yes, this is the definition.
There is test first. It's like TDD because you start by a test, but it's not TDD at all because you don't have this baby step in mind. It's like saying, okay, I want to go to Australia. I said that I'm in Australia. Okay, code. I can code for a long time. It's Australia is far from now. There is not baby step. Go to the airport first. No. To Australia, I wait for it is test first. It's not TDD because it not guide you on the design. It lets you without any protection code and dead code and reachable code and paranoia code, and you will do mistake until it passes. But look at your code. You have 100 line. You could have 30 lines. if you had bit guided. So yes, it's not. If not, it's not a TDD. TDD, the main part is
Driven by test.
1D driven. The main part. Test is not the main part because it's a false part. It's not testing. Okay, you use test because it is good, like fire in the road, red and green. You could use a hammer. If a hammer can get feedback. Okay, you eat something, so someone up, if it is blue, for example, okay, it's feedback. No, we use the test because the test has the feature of having red part and green part. Green part, hands up, you're done. No need to continue, just refactor, no transformation, just refactor. But if not, you can invent some code that isn't tested, that won't be tested, and you won't have a knowledge. One sentence of it, one sentence about that. I like that example. Imagine a function a and b in parameters, return a plus b. Okay, test that method. People can, oh, TDD, as long as you have test, you can have test after. Okay, you can test after. Okay, good. Now I have this function. Okay, test it. Okay, but you could take 0 and 0, and the result, your outcome is 0. Okay, good. It works. It works. 100% coverage. Good, good. Now a little junior came into the place and replace the plus by a minus. A minus B. Run the test. Oh, it passes. Why it passes? Because it's a good mistake. I don't want 100% coverage, 0. It doesn't worth anything because the test you've made test the sole fact that you have traversed a line. Okay, a good test is a test that tests the semantic of the code, not the syntax or the structural lines. The semantic, what is the meaning, like TDD, the first D, the plus. You have to test the plus. So 0, 0 is bad data. The good data would be 1 and 1. So if you make in TDD 0 and 0, you can start with 0, for example. Okay, 0, return 0, not A plus B. It passes test. Okay, next transformation. 1 and 0, not A plus B, A, return A. Next, 1 and 1, next 8 dot B, 8 plus B.
Yeah.
You justified the existence of any word in TDD. If you have less equal, greater or equal, or just greater, you have to justify what's strict greater. Why there's not equal, or justify the equality. So you don't write anything you didn't, you haven't been under to. And it is a very important thing. That's why TDD is forced to be TDD if you want a good code.
Yeah, it's leading you. So the tests are the driver, and then development follows.
Exactly.
Now we go on to the next one. So the first point demonstrated that we shouldn't generalize too quickly when refactoring. Here the point was to demonstrate that we shouldn't define a too complex test case at the beginning. So I think this is referring to the code demo. Okay, great.
Yes. Yes, it's a very, you have to choose a test that will lead to the highest transformation in priority you can. So to let the baby step, to have easy baby steps that you could finish in a matter of a minute, of seconds. You can resolve the test in 1 second. Not execution time. Execution time, millisecond. But about the nature of the essence of the algorithms you can find, you will find it in under 1 minute.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Now we have the next ones, which I will show 2 comments. I think they were again related to the previous topic about should tests always lead us. So it was, sorry, this was the previous one, and then the follow-up comment was this one about Sandra Mancuso says the opposite, and JB Rainsberger comments that there are 4 levels of people who do TDD, and what he comments level 2, and then we had another one. London versus Chicago, but mocking is always a code smell. I'm not sure if you have anything else to add
Yes,
on
yes.
onto
If
these.
you want, okay. London and
Yeah.
Chicago, as it's like in a team, the red and the blue guys. It's like that. Okay, so it's a movement. Okay, you have the London way. The synonym is the Mokist guys, and you have
Mhm.
the Chicago way or Detroit. I don't know who is choose the city. Okay, Detroit or Chicago is the same thing. About classicist. Okay,
Mhm.
there's a Mokist one and classicist one. Sandro, for example, is a Mokist guy. Okay, or other person can be classicist guy. I'm classicist guy right now for long years. I'm classicist. So you, some people have to know. It's like religion. There was a lot of movement inside the same religion. Everyone sees the truth, his own truth. My experience shows that it works like that. The other person shows it works like that. Okay. I believe people who really tried every path and have their experience and relate it to. Not every person has related path. For example, Sandro Mancuso, I like that guy. Okay. Sandro Mancuso didn't choose the use case driven like and classicist mode like we do, because there was an interesting video about Uncle Bob versus Sandro Mancuso. I bought that video 4 years ago, and they debate about the London advantage and the Chicago advantage. Okay, both you can find quality arguments and you can find drawbacks. But if you count along the pros, you have more pros in the classicist in my mind. So I
Yeah.
respect every guy, but I had my own vision also at TDD, and that worked for me and for many other people.
Yeah, great to hear that. And that video, I watched the series as well, is
Hmm,
pretty good. Next one. So what I understand so far, elevating the level of transformation is about new behavior, red to green.
exactly,
Refactoring is staying at the same level of transformation, green to green.
exactly.
Okay. Interesting concept, transformation. Where is the concept root?
The concept root is about the students of Uncle Bob. He wrote them on his blog post. They be stuck. Okay, they were stuck in their TDD and they couldn't evolve, even if they want. They had a sort of generosity that blocks them. They can't add any next test and handle any new behavior, because when you have a too high generosity, it's like a zip. Okay, you can add a folder in it. Okay, zip it up, locked. You can. It's too compact. Okay, when it's too compact, you can't extract and change and rezip. You
Mhm.
have to explode the thing and rephrase the thing, and it costs it costs a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. And also another comment, how about automating the time limit rule, making TCR and rolling back the transformation with a timeout? Is it pushing the
you
pressure
you
too far?
you can, but I like estimates. I really think that if developers they already have a lot of pressure, because a lot of developers, including me, in some parts, we don't know how to do it. Not in TDD, just how to do the feature. We write, okay, a transactional, okay, there is a read committed, a read committed, okay, how do we handle that? A saga, okay, but what is a variant? How do we handle? We constantly think. If you have an additional pressure, when it finished, okay, and it's a stress, okay, and if you add to that your own time limit, you won't respect your quality guidelines, and you will take some shortcuts to keep the time limit. TCR is very good to train.
Mm-hmm.
Don't recommend to use it in real life. It will frustrate a lot of developers. Maybe some very advanced TDD developers can try. I tried it, but I will ensure you that if, even in the case where people don't write tests because tests are long to run, Some tests are long to run because they're badly tested with a lot of coupling, selenium, everything you want. They wouldn't type anything in test if the code they write can be erased in a matter of seconds. Revert, restart. No, I don't want to restart. I want to deliver. People are also already in pressure. But TCR is a very good way to learn baby steps because you don't want to lose a lot of code when TCR erases your code. Okay, at the first mistake, you lose, you restart. So you want to restart the minimum of code. It will learn you how to think in baby step. It's a good way to train.
That's a good tip regarding training. Next one we have is that Roy describes in his book, The Art of Unit Testing, result verification, state verification, and interaction verification. I think those were the things that you were referring to.
Yes, but caution to interaction verification. It leads to extreme mocking. Okay. For example, a lot of people want to check if that repository was called once. Because twice was you would post 2 items instead of one. You can find implicit. I show them in trainings sessions. You can find implicit if you can say, okay, you have that box. Okay, for example, you have a box. Okay, and all the results you put in the repository, I will contain it. At the end of the test, I count them. If I had one, I can make sure that there's one call. So I don't want my repository, my test, to know that the method save of the repository was called once. I will inspect the mini array in memory that will show me if implicitly this is called once. The advantage, my test didn't know about save. Don't need save. The word save, the method save doesn't appear in my test. Okay, cumulating to other part of the code, you get less brutal test in case of refactoring or renaming or what.
That's a good example, I mean, of and how you had code examples of like in-memory repositories and gateways. Okay, the next one is the refactor part intended in Kent-Beck books was to remove duplication. Would we consider that as a relevant constraint?
Remove duplication is good and not good. Okay, I'm fan of it. I like a very beautiful code. I'm fond of extract till you drop. Again, Uncle Bob, fine. For some years, all my methods, any method I have in all my projects, 3 lines. 3 lines, not 4, not 5, 3 lines. I apply the extract till you drop as the extent of the extreme. My code was in pure English. You show the code in English. You want to show to see code? Scroll down. Yep, there is implementation details. So it's good, very good, but take compromise. You have to shape, to deliver. The user can't be totally about your kind of quality. The idea is to reach that little by little, a day. You took 2 minutes because you pass by that, you traverse that file. Oh, you see that? Oh, 1 second, up, the test pass. Okay, next time, one day, I will push further, etc. Because in that case, you will be productive and people won't wait for you and you won't scare people. Because a lot of teammates who has not used to refactoring it will be very frustrated when there will be a pull request. I'm against pull request, but some people make pull request and see 112 file changed. Why? You just have to create a transaction. Yes, but you know, it's that file. There is a return. I wanted to change, and so I do it. Of course, you can do it, and you should do it. That's what pull request. I don't like pull request, but you should do it. But not at the extreme when your teammates can't follow. Let them refactor when they have time. If Boolean return true as return false, you know, if Boolean return true as return false, return Boolean. No, I don't have test. I don't want to break anything. Yes, you're right. You don't have test. You scare, but If you come across that and you have test, change it. Return boolean. Okay. But in a PR, in pull request, people, why did you touch that code? It's not part of the ticket. Because I'm a professional and I see ugly code and I repair it. That's the answer. But a lot of people won't accept that answer. I accept it. People who work with me, it's okay. But a lot of people don't accept them. So if you want to remove duplication, take, but little by little, not too much. If it's one method,
Yeah.
okay. But if it's a large part of the program, one little by one little.
That's definitely a good tip and bringing the whole team on board. The next one we have is, being me an old coder, what do you suggest to refactor my mindset to real baby test TDD?
Okay, there one tips I learned about, very highlighted in the book of Martin Fowler, Refactoring. Okay, the first edition in Java. He said, what is refactoring? Refactoring is changing the code in small steps. Why small steps? Because at every step of the activity of the refactoring, you don't want to break any code. If you break the code, it's not a refactoring. So you have to have, for example, if you want to you have a if else open close principle and you want to emerge to a strategy pattern, do it in a way to not break the code at any time. It's very difficult because there is also a very little gap of red and green, but not a long red, not a good way to come in 5 minutes. No, really try it and refactor small steps. To have the baby step of TDD, start to just learn refactoring and say, okay, I will come to the hash map. I had an array. Okay, I want to progress interactively. So for some time, you will be in two worlds, maybe an hash map and array, maybe up, and you will place the wall by magic. It works. So and in TDD, there is the same thing to in the step refactor, but be aware that I read the question be aware that the baby step is not about refactoring at first. It's about the green step, okay? And the green step is driven by the red test. You have to choose the appropriate red test to be able to have a simple green field to pass it easily with the appropriate transformation as you chose. And in refactoring, there's no constraints. You can go 1 day, 2 days if you want for the same test. But what I choose in the business value, 2 days is not the manager won't figure out why 2 days against on the feature. So you have to defer the refactoring in some other moments to iteratively progress.
That was a good explanation, basically, for people to firstly start with this incrementalism and iterativeness at the red step, and then later we can also progress to refactoring. The next question, how can we know that we should do transformation at this specific moment?
You can't. It's a feeling. That's why TDD is hard. At the moment, it's not a mechanical thing. Okay, TDD is hard. You take 10 developers, 10 grid developers. You will have 10 different code. Okay, all may be very great code in the outcome, but the way people think is very different from every person. So how can we know that we use at specific moments? Because you can have you have to search by elimination. Choose the highest, replace with the constant. It is working. It is possible. No, take the 2. It is possible. No, take the 3. If you first beginning the test and the first test you go down to the 9, you choose a very wrong test, because some people from the prime factors would chase 9, 3 and 3, or 8, 2, 2 and 2 as the first test. No, why? It leads to not the highest transformation superiority premise. It's too complex. TDD is about decomplexify. It's like a game. Level 1, it's easy in general in video game. Level 2, it's a little complex, more complex. Level 9 is very complex. Some people start with level 9. They're saying, I'm doing TDD, I write my test, I write my code, and now observe them coded. How do I do it? I know. I have to program all the exercise, and then it would pass. Yeah. Where is the guided? It's like a GPS device. You want to, like Waze of Google. Okay, saying you want to go to Australia. Okay, I will tell you when you arrive. Where is the guiding? No, where is the guidance? I want to be guided. It's TDD. No, I will tell you. Okay, you can get along. You can try. You can take the airplane you want. It's not TDD. It's like having no test at all.
Yeah, definitely. We need that incremental guide, and we also had a follow-up comment basically for baby steps. We can start with hard coding, so simpler solutions, and then the TPP goes upwards over time. Now we have the next question. Why do you prefer fakes over mocks? Both are coupled to the real class and should be updated if the main class changes.
It's wrong. Absolutely wrong. I explain. Mocks. What is a mock? Mock is not like a stub. It's not like a fake. It's not like all these things. Okay. There is. I imagine why this question is asked, but I will explain. Fake. Okay. Start with fake. Fake in the language. A fake is something that looks like a lot like the real thing, but it's not the real thing. When you have that, you start thinking complexity. A fake should be complex. You want to fake an email server, you have a complex fake. Okay, to treat like if to disguise the thing like a real email server. In testing part, I don't refer to those kind of fakes. One mistake, a huge mistake, enormous mistake I see about TDD is that person who don't use mock libraries like I am. I don't like mock libraries for a ton of reasons. It could be another session. Have in memories with logic in it. But in a real database, I have a huge query, so I had to come up with the same query in code to implement my in-memory for the test. No! An in-memory should act, in effect, like a stub. Just return what you want. The test should be, you in-memory? Okay. When I call that, you will return that. That's all. Okay? So you set up the test with the appropriate rendering, direct rendering of what you want. So it's not an in-memory it's not the same in-memory you have in production. Like everyone said. You can start. I start with this memory in production. It's good with agility because mock in production, you dream. No, because the mocking libraries, etc., are not in this library, in production, but fake you can. So I start with an in-memory short in-memory, a memory that doesn't fake but stub. And then for the agility part, I can have another smart in-memory that have a code that looks like a real usage in demo with a lot of if, a lot of map, a lot of what you want. But it's an adapter like another adapter. So why I prefer facts or mock? For the definition, a mocks will check the behavior between two objects. Okay? I don't want that. Imagine you have to sign a contract. Okay? You observe someone in a room with another guy, okay, about signing a contract. What do you want to observe? Do you want to observe the hand, the checking of the hand that indicates that they are happy, so you can deduce that they have signed the contract? It's the mock. The mock don't look at the contract. The mock look at the observation of the behavior between objects, the checking hands. But the issue comes when there is a COVID-19, okay, and you can't check your hand anymore. Okay, maybe it's a glint with a eye. Maybe it's another sign. You don't want to test to couple a sign. You want your test to couple a denouement, a side effect. Side effect, the contract is saying, okay, I want to check the contract. It is saying, okay, signed, okay, it is signed, okay, it's good. You can change all the alternative. You want to check ends. You want to smile. You want to everything. I want to check the denouement, and that's why I prefer stubs, because it's very compatible with denouement than mocks that are too powerful. And mocks, you can do things very, very bad. You can mock private method. You can inject class in with a signature of the concrete class. You can declare SQL car repository in the constructor, and you can mock it. It works for test. You can mock, it works. But for production, how do you do? In the production, I want to change with MongoDB tomorrow. How do I do if my design is rigid? So mock rigidifies the design. I don't like them
Yeah.
if it isn't doing, if the people are not doing well.
That's a nice summary. Now we had some other follow-up comments again about fakes are real objects
No.
used as.
No. In unit testing, you never use real objects. Okay, never, ever use real objects. Real or secondary adapters are completely other objects. You can have, like I said, an intermediary, smart in memory, but your smart in memory that is mimic the real behavior, or kind of real behavior. You can't have the exact real behavior, but some path you can have. It isn't executed by my test anymore. I have step for my test and not other one.
I think that this
Yes.
one relates to the previous one.
For database
So-
repositories, I have the simple in memory. Okay. For example, if my query filters a lot of if, yes, size, no, my test, you want that. Okay. When you call that, it will automatically filter by that. Okay, très bien. Good. Give me that thing. And then I can have a game of variable to check if the filter call was good. I can have that. Okay. So in a way, I transform my step to a certain of mock, spy mock. Okay. There's a lot of debate spy on mock. I have my own vision, mock, but I don't use real adapters. If I use real adapters, I would use SQL. I don't want. I never want unit testing. No SQL.
Yes, instead you have, for example, in memory or repository, something like that. But I think the question that's being well targeted here was the different approaches. So some people might have a mock repository, some people have fake repository, some people have stub repository, because, and you were distinguishing between the two types. When it's simple, when you just feed it the results, I mean, that's like stub repository.
Yes, a stub with the ability to memorize the parameter you send them. So it's more like a stub. It's more like a stub. It's a mock stub. Okay, a mock has the ability to check by himself. So I don't do that. It's not the in memory that validate himself. I don't like that. I don't find useful. I could, but it's not useful. But I have the ability to search in the array or the map or what you want in the memory for the results I imagine he contains in my assertion. And the advantage is that the method called by the production code will never be apparent in my test. If you mock, you have that save, you have that update, you have that by ID, you have those methods. Because you say when you call find by ID, then your mock should return that. You have find by ID written. With my style, you don't have by ID, find by ID. You can rename it, you can change it, you can even use another kind of method, existing method. The test isn't break, doesn't break. So it's a huge advantage. Yes.
And just to be a bit more concrete, so if we had this stub or fake in-memory repository, it could, for example, contain inside itself maybe a hash map or a list or something like this, so that if we add to it, that then it adds to the hash map, so that later when we do the get, it's retrieving from that
yes, but
hash map.
But a secret get. I found people that exercise a real find by ID on the production method of the repository. No, you have to check in the secret method I call it a secret method, a get. Because the advantage is you bypass any code, any logic code of your found by ID. I don't want. It's a production code. I don't want to couple production method in tests. Okay, so you would never see a test of a special use case calls another use case. Never. He will set up an arrangement to have the denouement of a use case in entrance for another use case, but never coupling the two.
Good. I think that this may be a good topic also for future LinkedIn articles. I'm seeing this kind of question appearing quite a lot. Another question, I think the worst thing you can do is coding is not comply with good practices just because it is faster, which it is not.
I read. I think the worst thing you can do coding is not comply with good practice just because it is faster, which is not. Yes, the Uncle Bob will say the only way to go fast is to go well. Okay, so it's an illusion to go faster without good practice. I repeat, TDD, don't waste your time. It will gain time, not in long term, in short term. At the second, I solve the primary factor kata before a lot of developers without TDD. With TDD, faster than without TDD. And then, yes, if you don't want to go into accidental complication and complexity like you want, you have to avoid it. You have to apply good practices. The idea is not to apply a lot of all you know in one shot. People would hate you, will hate you. Okay? Iteratively, you want a system that allows you to iteratively have a continuous improvement. TDD, the mind, you can say you have a good mind, you have a good direction, you have to fake what you can fake, you have to take shortcut of what you can shortcut, you have to avoid 10 bonding context when one would work, etc., etc.
Yeah, and another question we had about use cases. Test the use case is test put input and output. So could we think of use cases as in essentially as an input, and then there's some kind of output state, or what's
but
your
every test in the world have input and output. It's test input and output. So it's a definition of a test. You have input arrangements. Okay, the given part. Okay, you exercise something and you observe. Output.
Yes. So the use case has an output and may also have stateful impact on, for example, repository.
Yes.
Okay.
In a non-functional way. In functional way, you don't have impact.
Correct.
If you can go along with free monad, for example, you didn't have injection for dependencies injection. You have what we call, for example, free monad. Free monad is a language you describe what you want to do. Get, put, get. It's a language for hash map, for example. Get, put, get. When a system that is called an interpreter with get, put, get, he will translate in his own terms. Oh, get, okay, repository that called that. Oh, that way, your core is completely agnostic to side effects. Okay, it is called the imperative shell functional core. Okay, it's a derivative of hexagonal architecture, but sincerely, in language that are not deeply functional programming, is not very useful. It just you don't have all the tips of a true language that will make a lot of things very, very good. You can try; it's good. There are some videos on the net, but you can keep a classical hexagonal architecture even with functional programming, with object-oriented, etc.
Okay, we have a few more questions before wrap up. It's great that people are still here, so just a few more. What if my code needs to load data from database? For example, update first name use case. Instead of calling the real database, we use a fake repository in the unit. test.
Yes,
Okay,
the,
great.
the answer is simple. Unit test is not about observing the real things. The thing is about observing about answering the intention of the code. Okay, it's like for example, in an orchestra, I don't know how we say in English. Okay, the responsible of the orchestra, the chief. Okay, don't play instruments. He just order to play instruments. Play some violin, play some saxophone, play what you
Yeah.
want. Okay, unit test doesn't exercise real things. He just tests that you will have the intention to exercise. He tests the paths, he tests the coordination, he tests the shape, the brain of the code. So it's not, it is like absurd to say, how do you load data from database? I don't load data from database from the unit test. I have the intention that I have to load the database. So give me some data in memory. Create them data. I want a violin, create a violin. Well, but the database should give the violin. Yes, of course, but I am in the world of intention. The unit test in the world of intention. It's not real. Intention. Then you have adapters, secondary adapters. You test only secondary adapters isolated of the world. Don't bring the business rules with it. Okay, and you test the real load. And how do you answer that the load will work with your code? Designed by contract, because the interface. You have an interface. It is shared between the two worlds. If it is the same, you have the implementation, and you have the intentions. It works.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a good explanation. And also just a few more questions with comments which came up is basically in a hexagonal architecture, we're doing unit testing with faking external dependencies. I mean, those are the tests which are targeting the ports, and then you need to have test
But
doubles.
it's not we can. It's we out to. It's not we can.
Yes.
We out to.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a unit test. And then so this means that we can basically test the whole use case because we've replaced any external dependencies.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me just see. Okay, so leaving some links for the books you suggested.
Oh,
So
you type them on Amazon, for example. You have all the books you want. Implementing Domain-Driven Design from Von Vernon. You have Modern C++ Programming with Test-Driven Development. Okay, for Jeff Langer. And the preface is from Uncle Bob. Very good.
Yes, so we will then leave some links there. Also, we had some nice comment from Daniel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel, for this feedback. And another one, yes, so we will be having more sessions, and as we can see, a lot of these are focusing on test-driven development and other practices from extreme programming. Do you still recommend Ken Beck's book, Test-Driven Development by Example?
It's a good question. I won't recommend it because I don't like the example. Like the example in Goose, growing object-oriented software, I think, in my opinion, it's a very wrong example and a boring example to talk about auction with a sniper XMPP that nobody has at home, etc. It's not a very good subject, entertaining subject. Okay, I don't like. I really recommend the videos of Uncle Bob. Very, very good. Until now, they are better than any books. Okay, you check. It is the episode from memory 19, 19.1, 19.2, 12, 12, 12.1 until 24. Okay, look at them. Buy them. It's not very expensive. Buy them. Look at them with some popcorns, and you will enjoy everything inside. And then read that book. It's not, if you don't do C++, it's not. I didn't do C++ for a long time, okay? But only the example are in C++. The books should be renaming is TDD, just TDD.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that recommendation. Another one which also came up here in chat was Ken Beck's Tidy First, an exercise in empirical software design. So that's the one where he also has a newsletter. We also had some interesting comment about TDD. TDD steps are not only red, green, refactor, but thinking red, thinking green, thinking refactor. What's your perspective regarding where thinking is within TDD?
Thinking is the main part of TDD. If you don't think, it's a creative activity. Okay, it's not a mechanical activity. There are a lot of developers that think that TDD is magic, because if you just write a test, you all algorithm will be okay. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to think, but think globally, act locally. You think the whole design, what you want to assert, what is the channel of observation you want to assert. Is it a repository result? Is it an event? Is it a multi-threading output? What is it you want to assert? Okay, then you can have the direction, and to write the path when you drive, to write the path, then you use TDD by magic. You don't anticipate. You let the transformation higher, the bottom and bottom and bottom and bottom, and you generify as the test gets specific, the code gets more generic, and then you're done. But that part of implementing is like an architect in a house building. He thinks. And then there are some workers that work. But if there isn't architect, the workers would make a lot of mistakes. You have to have direct direction. As a developer, we have a chance. We have both architects and workers. So we have to think and and uh, implement. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good summary, especially how you said think globally, act locally, and I think that's a nice summary of also the benefits we get from TDD. So in any case, I want to say thank you a lot. We really
Thank you too.
enjoyed the whole presentation,
Thank you
the
to all.
code demo. And thanks also to everyone for staying. This session did go longer than our average duration, but I think it was really useful for everyone. So thanks a lot, and looking forward also to our future sessions as well.
Yes, thank you, Valentina. Very well orchestrated, and in TDD, no, very, very orchestrated, and keep on the good post, because every post you write is like a book. It's like a diagram, and then we imagine we will go to the moon when we see the post. So it's very, very good. Keep on like that, and it's good to have a lot of girls right now. There is it's not the soul that evangelize a lot of concepts to it's very, very, very it's another charm, I think, to the craft woman. We lacked a lot of craft women, and those days in 2022 there are a lot of more people like that, and very excellent work. And the goal is to not fight any person. On LinkedIn, I love to debate. I also want to have an answer, but it's a good way to have a pleasant moment to exchange. So I see LinkedIn very really not a fight, because everybody has in mind his mind, but it's very good. He has your mind to be sharing, and mine, and any other of in the chat have their mind too, and together we will go further and reinvent TDD. Why not?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I really enjoy reading your posts, and I think they're really great how you talk about both TDD and DDD. So I do recommend to everyone to follow Mikhail and his writings on LinkedIn. So we will be sharing also links below about for connecting. So I just want to say thanks again, and see you all next time.
Thank you. Next
Thank
time
you.
to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.